Hi, welcome to Quiltinator.com. I'm Michelle Johnson. I'd like to show you how to sew together the Goshen star block. This is going to be a 12-inch finish block, 12.5-inch finish or unfinished block. And it's just a two-color block. So this is my background, this mottled gold. This is a green batik, and that's my focus fabric. And what I've done is on the 6-inch square, drawn a line down diagonally, and then what I'm going to do is put these right sides together, and then I'm going to sew 1/4 inch down on either side. If you do not have a 1/4 inch foot, you're going to want to draw with a pencil something kind of light that won't show up. You're going to want to draw 1/4 inch away. Just take your ruler, line it up, draw on either side, and you'll sew on those lines, and still you're going to cut on this diagonal line that you drew in the center. So you'll end up with 4 half-square triangles. Then for your other pieces, these are 5.5 inches by 3 inches. And you're going to have 4 of these, and you're going to have 16 of these 1 3/4 inch squares that you just fold diagonally in half. And you're going to put, each square is going to need 4, because you're going to put 1 in each corner. So you put it there, you open it up, and then you're going to sew in that channel, if you can get it lined up. So you will just sew down that channel and then flip it up on either side. And you'll do that to all 4. And then when you are done with that, I will meet you right back here. This was our 2 6-inch blocks that were sewn together and then sewn 1/4 inch apart and then cut. These are just slightly oversized. They need to measure 5.5 inches. And if you'll notice on this ruler, here's the 5.5, here's the 5.5. It's just slightly bigger. So how do we do this to make it look nice? Well, that's where this 45-degree line comes in. And what you do is you just take your ruler and then you're going to slide it. This is the 5.5 inch line. And so I could cut just right there. But what I'm going to do just a little bit is slide it up just a touch to where it's just slightly over 1/2 inch on all sides. And if you can, I don't know if you can see very well from where you're at or from the angle, it is just, there's the 5.5 inch line, and it just extends right past. But we want to keep this in order, and so what I'm going to do is just shave off, and then shave off on that side. So now these 2 sides are squared up. So now that I have squared up the right and left sides, I'm going to take my 45-degree mark and put it right on the stitching line that I just did. And then I'm going to take the 5.5 mark and line it up with my fabric on the right side and across the bottom. And there's, it's lined up in all 3 points as close as I can get it. So 1, 2, and 3, and then we're going to just take off the rest of the slivers, because that's all they will be, and the little point. And now my block is exactly 5.5 inches. Another thing I wanted to show you is this piece. when you're putting on your pieces, you're going to do just one edge first. And as you can see here, they're not the best. And here, hopefully you can see a little bit better, this green edge sticks out on the one on the top just a little bit. So what we want to do is we want to keep the green, because that is the background, and it'll make sure everything stays. So we bend this down, we bend this, we get our ruler, and we put our 1/4 inch line on the stitching line, and then all we have to do is trim. And so that way I'll just go back and repress it, and you can see. So that way, if you have any problems like with your cutting, with your stitching, anything, it'll be fixed right here, because that way when you sew, you know for sure it's going to catch up there. And that's going to be the line that you line everything up when you join this to the next piece. So again, just fold, fold, and then pull out and smooth. Again, just put the 1/4 inch line right on the stitches. And there it is. Iron it in place, and then you can put on your next 2 pieces, because this next piece, when you put it here in the corner, it's going to cover just the tip of this. So you want to make sure that you have the 2 edges done first before you stitch. If you want to get perfect points when you're doing this, you're going to make an X with your little cross blocks here. To get a perfect point, you want to make sure that your stitching goes through the X, or just right on the other side of the X. And I forgot to do that on the other side, so I'm going to rip it out. But now here I'm watching the needle and going right there at the X. And here you can see I've gone just right on the outside of that X. And when I open it up, that point is perfect there. I'm going to rip it out because I didn't make it perfect on this side. Sure, it would be fine, but this is for somebody else. So I want to make it as pretty as possible. So you can see just by watching where you stitch, you can make a pretty point. I have already sewn the top row and the middle row together. It's just sew the 3, join them together. And when you press, since you have 4 of these, you always want to press away. So when you sew them together, put this on the top and iron it. And then when you open it up to iron it, you smooth out that way. So that way it's going away. And the same for each of these pieces. You're going to just want to go press away. So once I sew this one together and then join to these, you'll see that on the back, again, I have pressed away from the little diamond shaped ones. Pressed away from the diamond shape to the half square triangle and to the just square, so away from the diamonds. And then whenever this kind of becomes a 4 patch, so you can just open that up and smush it with your fingers and then just iron it. So it's like popping those little stitches and smushing it. And that's all I've done. And then I'll do the same thing on the other side. I'm going to put a link about the half square triangles and 1/4 square triangles. You might have watched it, you may not have. But Wendi from Shiny Happy World has a really good explanation for the right way to put fabrics together whenever you're going to sew them together. So that way you won't have the pulling and stretching. And I'm going to put that link on the bottom. And she really does an excellent job of explaining it, so I don't need to. Just sew them together and you have your Goshen star. Thanks for watching this video. I'm Michelle Johnson with Quiltinator.com, and I'm getting back to quilting.